Is Friday the 13th the best or the worst day to make a witchy frog? Let's find out. So, I am actually making two frogs today. The first one I'm making is in 1-to-1 Teexpert resin, and I am using some black laser paste. This laser paste is lovely. It's got such a beautiful sparkle to it. It's not very opaque in the result, but the sparkle is nice. So, we win some, we lose some. All I'm doing here is pouring the resin into my frog mold, and I'm going to give it a lot of squishing in the hope to not get any bubbles. Now, Friday the 13th is an odd one because it's not always been classed as unlucky. It started with certain aspects of history. So you've got things like Judas being the 13th guest at the Last Supper. If you go back to Norse mythology, you've got Loki being the 13th guest. Then you go back to medieval England, and you've got Fridays were known as execution days. They were designated for hangings. So it's only more recently that Friday the 13th have become a thing of bad luck. uh, Anyways, back to what I'm doing. So I've done my black laser paste resin frog, and now in the same mold, obviously not at the same time, I am doing an eco casting resin frog as well. With this, I'm just putting in some green and a little bit of black because I didn't want it like lime green, so we're going with sort of a more of a darker green, and then it just ended up really grey, so we had some more green in just for good measure. Yeah, so back to the Friday the 13th thing. So you've also got things like the Knights Templar arrest is one of the most famous ones that's cited because it was Friday the 13th in October 1307. It's a long standing thing that's sort of come about, but it's not necessarily for one particular reason. It's very bizarre. It's something that society has made on its own. It became more of a fear when it became popular in the 19th century with popular literature writings and using that as a day of bad luck for their storylines, later through the horror franchise. So it's a very, very modern concept that Friday the 13th is unlucky. But if you look at other countries, so like Italy, it's Friday the 17th is classed as unlucky. The 13th is actually lucky for them. And then if you move over to like Spain and Greece, it's Tuesday the 13th that's associated with bad luck. So like I said, it's very much a modern concept thing, as opposed to there being any grounds for Friday the 13th being unlucky. But hey ho, there you go. There's my random information for you for the day. I made way too much eco casting powder. So I'm just filling up another mold as well. This is a little dragon mold. He sat on like some gold coins. It's really cute. I've made quite a few of these. I do really like this mold. And just a lot of tapping between the two molds because there's lots of little nooks and crannies where bubbles can get stuck in both molds. Now let's have a demold. So first we're demolding the resin frog, the epoxy resin. And I'm not gonna, this was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I think it was a bad hand day because realistically it shouldn't have been, but the silicone kept popping back. I couldn't hold it for toffee. But with a good yank, he came free eventually. So I have gone with a pagan witchy style frog. I absolutely love this mold. You can see a big bubble I got in his hat. There's a few micro bubbles. I'm not too worried about the micro bubbles because they're not visible, not really. And here's my little dragon on his coins. Look at him. He's so cute. He had a few bubbles in his horns. That's a nice, easy fix though. You can either do it with some more eco resin or you just pop a little bit of UV on to fill the holes. Fabulous. That's the sort of fixes that we like. Then I'm back to demolding the frog. I didn't want to do it. But actually, the second time around, it was a lot easier. So can't complain. Not really. But this was 2 days after the resin frog, so hands were having a better day on this day. Now, with my resin frog, all I am going to do to him is I have filled in his bubble with a bit of UV resin, which was nice and easy. I didn't film it, didn't think you needed to see me doing that. And then I am just taking some rub and buff and I am just elevating a lot of the detail, because a lot of the detail you cannot see, not really in this one. So I wanted to enhance the detail, but I didn't want to do too much to him. And then I went a bit OTT with the rub and buff, and there ended up being loads of rub and buff. So he's a very silvery frog, but he's very cute, so I don't mind. Oh, that's some good camera angles, and you can see exactly what I'm doing there, can't you? Oh my goodness. Now on to the eco resin. I am going to be using some acrylic markers and some acrylic paint. I want two completely different frogs, same mold, but two very, very different outcomes. So I'm just putting some white on his eyes. His eyes won't stay white, but I'm putting white on them just as a base because I want yellow. I want yellow eyes. Then a bit of white for his skull on his skull stick. I'm assuming it's sort of like a staff, a wand, maybe. Then I've been in and I've done the actual staff itself in a brown, and he's got like a little gem on the bottom of his cloak ribbon tie-off things. So I've put that in purple, and then his cloak and his hat are going to be done in black acrylic paint. And I went with acrylic paint because the acrylic paint pen itself, like the acrylic pen, just doesn't do black very well. Now here he is after his first coat. I will do the second coat off screen. I don't see the point in you watching me do exactly the same thing twice. I have now made a green wash. I wasn't overly happy with his shade of green, so I just wanted to add a bit more depth and texture to it. So I've gone with sort of an olivey green wash for him. It just really creates a lot of depth on the piece itself. And you see I'm using very, very technical equipment. My hand is a great brush off. Now I'm just going to take some rub and buff in antique gold to highlight. He's got some little details on his cape and his hat, so I just wanted to highlight those with a bit of rub and buff, and I wanted it to be in gold to make it look pretty. I would also like to take this moment to say that today my video is part of a collaboration, Froggy Friday, organised by Karen at the Dragon's Cave and Lisa from Girl in the Garage. From what I understand, lots of other people helping too. So I've got to know, are you superstitious and believe that Friday the 13th is full of bad luck? And do you think that this was a good or a bad day to make a witchy frog? I've also filled his eyes in yellow and given him the black lines so that you can see his eyes. I did also give black lines to the resin one. And after this, I give him a spray varnish just to seal everything in. And that's it. So if you've made it all the way to the end of my video, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to push the like and subscribe buttons down below. Be forever grateful. And all that's left is the glamour shots for you. Thank you, and bye for now.